Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and a man rapidly running out of storage space. It's too late. Random review is about to begin.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1331 of our daily content grind. So, couple things going on. So, you'll notice the video is going to be a little bit different. Might be wonky, don't even know if it's going to work at this point because, well, I've never reviewed a toy with my phone before, which means it might go all over the place visually. You'll forgive me, I am experimenting until I can find a suitable new review camera. But also, yeah, it's the weekend, which means it feels like the weekend's just going to be review time on this channel. I was anticipating Wild King toys, but those were just one day behind on the shipping schedules, so unfortunately we're going to be looking at Aerialbots today. But hey, it's more Age of the Primes on the channel, getting some more new toys out there. And this one's going to be Slingshot, one of the more notable Aerialbots. I feel like every combiner team has like that one character out of the limbs that sticks out. And Slingshot gets to be him. He's the more rebellious of the Aerialbots. And, you know, a little bit more gung-ho than the rest. And, yeah, represented fairly well here. So, the vehicle mode is described as a Sea Harrier. However, it's always a vehicle mode that has drawn contention because he does come across quite blocky in comparison to some of the other Aerialbots. In particular, that front end, which is just these two gigantic blocks around what comparatively is a smaller nose cone. So, in most of those toys, I will give you that. It's not the best. However, this is going for Sunbow animation accuracy, and in that, this is pretty much exactly what you would expect. This is pretty much what his character model was, so I'm not going to knock it. I'm going to just go, yeah, that's kind of what he looks like, and move on. I still think it's a neat-looking jet. It's a little bit odd because the cockpit does seem quite large for the jets that I am used to, but it does give him a more distinct look. And to their credit, you know, there's sculpted air intakes there at the side, so like they're trying to make something of that big block mass going on. To its credit, however, while it is definitely bulky for a jet, it's also one of the smoother Aerialbot transformations I've seen. You know, things are pretty tucked in well. His arms are folded away. You know, like this is, you know, a lot of this you don't normally see on an Aerialbot. It's usually just, I'm wearing a jet on my back. So here, yeah, there's actually a little bit of merit to it. So I'm gonna give it credit. I don't think it's such a terrible job. Sculpted detail looks good. You got a lot of little lines going everywhere around him to create the little different panels and assemblies of the aircraft. Autobot symbols bold on the wings, bright red and blue stripes on the wings themselves. The tail fin has the blue. And the side profile, yeah, again, clean. Shows a little bit more black, a little bit of red. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. We do have the weapons on the sides, which can pin to the underneath the wings, which means obviously there's 5mm ports there for you to play with, and you also have little mounting points under what will be the legs. So there you go. You got weapon points for this toy, if you need them. Also, landing gear, which is actually built into the robot mode's head. It's very rare that the head contributes to the actual transformation, so kind of neat to see it here. But all that said, yeah, it's not a bad take on Slingshot. It's a pretty decent little jet mode. I even like the black stripe down the center. Breaks up the white a little bit. You know, it gives them like a little bit of a race stripe feel. So yeah, not too bad, not too bad. So, transformation on this guy. And this is where I was kind of interested in the toy because there's a few elements to it that are a little bit odd. But we'll get to that here in a minute. So for starters, I'm going to flip this down and flip this up, as well as flip the tail fin to the side in order to start our leg transformation. This one is pretty much basic of what you would expect out of combiner figures like this. I'm going to double hinge the top section of the rear of the jet out like so, and then just close everything back up, and that basically forms the legs. The wings are hinged both ways, so you can fold them back, which is how they want you to do it. However, if you really want to, you can also close them that way, which I believe is how he's going to work in combiner mode. But while that makes the wings stick out forward in robot mode, it does come up a little bit cleaner looking, so you have an option there. Which, by the way, he is one of the split combiners, so I should go ahead and see if I can't get that undone for you. Behold, tiny screwdriver. I just want to demonstrate that, that's how he's going to separate when he is connected. Now, if you have Menasor, this is compatible. You actually can do this, just if you want to try it out and swap a few things around. Also, very tight click once I reconnect them, so that's a really good spring holding this together. Should keep the robot nice and solid despite that split. Okay, I'm going to go animation accurate and keep the legs like that, split them apart. And now we come up to the upper body, so like many of the Aerialbots, that's just going to fold down and double hinge back to create his backpack like that. Here's the arm transformation that I actually like. It's going to unpeg from the main body of the jet, like that. And then double hinge down. And if it didn't happen during transformation, unfold the arms like so, and rotate them forward, which is a little bit more involved than I expected. And then rotating the head around like that. That's going to give Slingshot his robot mode, and honestly, like, the leg transformation is pretty stock standard for what we're used to out of Transformer transformations these days. But if I'm being honest with you, like the upper body, like how the arms transform and all that, that's actually some of my favorite stuff an Aerialbot has done. Aerialbot transformations tend to be very same-ish. You know, it's the arms that are tucked in under the vehicle mode wings, the legs that are just collapsed together into a big block at the back of the jet. This does something a little bit different, and while maybe the bar is low comparing it to other Aerialbot toys in the past, I would say this is one of my favorite transformations an Aerialbot's ever done. It's kind of weird, but like there is something kind of neat and satisfying about it, and I'm going to enjoy it for what it is. Speaking of, Slingshot looking pretty good. Remember, it is the Sunbow animation version of the character. If you want more detail and paint in the robot mode, then you have the Combiner War version that leans more toward the toy. This, cartoon accurate, yeah, it looks mostly solid white, with some big patches of solid black and red as well. Bright orange head sticking out a mile. And speaking of sticking out a mile, he's definitely not a clean robot. We do have quite a bit of junk left over from the vehicle mode. Now, keep in mind, with a lot of the Aerialbot toys, especially if we are going cartoon accurate, that is entirely how they looked in G1. They had their nose cones obviously stacked behind their heads in vehicle mode, or in robot mode. They had their wings just kind of hanging off. Like, a lot of them just kind of look like robots with jets on their backs. The thing that bugs me on him is that leftover tail fin, which doesn't really go in anywhere, doesn't fold away, doesn't unclip or anything. It's just kind of there, which is a little bit odd, but, you know, it is what it is. Let me give you the close-up of that orange noggin of his. Now, to their credit, they do what they can, because a lot of these combiner characters from like the mid 80s, like the season 2 stuff, all of them kind of have the same basic design going on. The head forms the peg that goes into the combiner, meaning a lot of them have these squared off head designs and big black sections or colored sections down their torso, which is what the stem of the combiner limb connection was. So they're all going to be kind of same-ish, but I think they did what they could pretty good. It's a really good likeness to Slingshot. And I do like that there is a slight difference in the orange from his visor to the rest of his head. That would have been really easy for them to just go the same color all over, but yeah, there is a slight difference I can detect, which is really cool of them to do. It's a subtle touch, but it's also kind of necessary. I mean, it is his eyes. They should stand out from the rest of his head. We unfortunately don't have a lot more details to talk about. You know, a lot of this nice stuff that we had from the jet mode is hidden and tucked away on his back kibble. His fists have been painted, so you've got that. It's weird that, you know, it's the outside edge that has been painted. The inside is still the flat. Also, speaking of flat, you notice his arms are quite thin. This is one thing I noticed in these in the production photos before the toy's release. I was kind of hoping the final version would be a little bit different. It is not. He's just weirdly flat arms. They don't feel as bad. I'm joking a little bit. It's like it's not like '07 movie Jazz where his arms are just panels, you know? '07 movie Jazz is a character who never gets locked out of his house because he can just slip his arm between the door cracks. This guy, it is weird, but in most poses, I don't really notice it. And honestly, it's not really as bad as I thought. It's more or less like when you put him in comparison to like the other Aerialbots who are going to have just arms underneath wings, or if you start staring between how thin the arm is and how thick the leg is, then things start to look a little bit odd, but encapsulated, I think it looks fine. So, how do we do on articulation? The articulation's pretty good. We have a ball jointed head that goes all the way around 360 degrees. The shoulders are those weird ones that should be universal, but they're not. Hinge at the torso, swivel beyond that. So he has that weird range of motion where you can get his arm in a lot of spots, but it always feels weird, and there's different positions that feel restricted, and you know, it's not as fun or feel good as a universal joint, unfortunately. You do have a bicep rotation that works 360 degrees, and a double hinged elbow means great articulation there. There's even this little peg that sticks out, just so like it doesn't fold completely flat against the shoulder. I'm not entirely sure why they went that direction, but whatever. Despite the torso literally popping in half, he does have a full waist rotation, which is cool to see. Universal hips that work great. The thigh rotation works really, really well. There's where for the people who get upset over hollow parts, there's the component on this toy that's going to get on your nerves the most. Yes, that's still a whole lot of exposed engineering in there. But you do get a 90-degree knee bend out of it. You do get a ankle tilt out of it. Meaning Slingshot, no slouch in the articulation. Outside of the weird shoulders, just one of those points of articulation a lot of Transformers have, and I never really like. On the upside, if you want 5mm play value, he is chock full of that. Like we said, on the front of his legs, he features it. You can see it on the underwing as well. His fists, obviously, and the sides of his forearms. For as much as I make fun of his tiny little forearms and how thin they are, yeah, he still has plenty of room there. I actually kind of like how he looks using those peg holes for his weapons and having, you know, the forearm mounted blasters rather than handheld. Because they're a little bit too small, they're a little bit thin. The blasters, not his arms. I'm not making fun of the arms anymore. But yeah, like the blasters are just a little bit thin, which gives me a little bit of a better feel putting them like as side mounted weapons rather than handheld. But that, my friends, is going to be your Aerialbot Slingshot. I do feel like he is a decent upgrade from the Combiner War version. He definitely feels more distinct than the Combiner War version does. And then it's all about aesthetic. If you like the animation accuracy or don't mind the lack of robot mode paint because of said accuracy, then yeah, he should be fine for you. Like, he does look good, and it's a good introduction to a new round of Aerialbots. And yeah, as said before, the transformation on this guy is, for an Aerialbot, the strong point. But there you go. That's what I got for you today. And join me tomorrow to review the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday / early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.